Bashar al-Assad has fallen after over a decade of external players trying to kick him out of power in Syria. The first thing that caught my attention with the fall of Assad is how much there was no battle. You know, when you think that a country that has experienced quote unquote civil war, I don't think it's a civil war, it's just that some terrorists were propped up by outsiders, namely Turkey, United States, Israel, and then maybe UK and some others. But these are the three main players. So these terrorists that have been propped up over the years against Assad, you would think, and then they had that fight. I don't want to call it a civil war, but they had that war that the army, the Syrian army, claimed victory with the help of the Russians. So you would think that a country that such powerful people, such powerful countries like the United States and Turkey are looking to overthrow your government, that the military will be top on its feet. But I don't think that's what happened. Clearly, there was no battle, there was no fight. Assad fell because his military, his army, just decided not to fight. I've seen several videos. Some of them were saying they were instructed to stand down from the top, from Aleppo to Hama, even to Damascus, even to it wasn't Damascus wasn't, and all these cities apart from other than Damascus, all these cities weren't conquered. They were given up. There was no fight. There was no battle. There was no action from the military. If you would ask me, I would say I don't have any evidence of this, but I just have a hunch. I would say that I think that some top players within the military were bribed for such a thing to happen. I think corruption is at play here, and it's inclusive of bribery. But apart from what just happened to Assad, which is a painful thing, because I'm of the opinion, I have always said that on this show, that all this regime change exercise, all this regime change movement does not benefit the country or the region or even the world. You come talk about, oh, Assad is bad, 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 bad. Yet the replacement, is it the better thing? These are literally head chopping terrorists. The guy who just claimed victory now, the what is it, Al Joni? I'll find his name and put it on the screen. Anyway, that guy was literally the head of Al Qaeda in Syria. So if you say, oh, they are no longer part of Al Qaeda is not just a fighting force; it's an ideology. And for him to sign up to head Al Qaeda branch in Syria, meaning that he agrees to that ideology. But we are seeing even the American government had a 10 million bounty on his head. But still, this same government has supported him, propping him up. You just imagine, say you don't want a dictator, you want a head chopping terrorist. Well, other than that, I want to mention from how this whole thing in Syria, you may think, oh, Syria is far from Africa. Okay, yes, it's far from Africa, not that far, but even if you say Syria is far from Africa, that does not mean what is going on in Syria does not affect us. There's a video that I want to show you. Watch this video. This is from a US official, a government official, a top government official in the military, where he's talking about United States planned military intervention in different countries. Watch this video and we'll come back to discuss it.
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me, and one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, He said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
So did you hear that? They had a plan that over the next 5 years, they were going to overthrow governments around the world, including African governments. Now, this video is from early 2000, I think 2003 or 2, but some of you may not know that in 1996, Benjamin Netanyahu, the current Prime Minister of Israel, wrote a book about terrorism. And in the book about terrorism, he listed 7 countries that should be overthrown for the benefit of Israel. And these 7 countries that he listed in his book that was released in 1996 are the same 7 countries that this US official just mentioned. They said they were going to invade Iraq. They did. Not just invade, we're going to overthrow the government of Iraq. They did. We're going to overthrow the government of Syria. They have just done that. They were going to overthrow, get involved in Lebanon. They did. Quite all right, it was going to culminate with Iran, which that's why I have said it several times on this show. Netanyahu is looking for a war with Iran. This has been the plan since this book was released in 1996. But other than these 4 nations, remember that he mentioned Libya. He did. He mentioned Somalia and Sudan. And let's not forget United States NATO's intervention in Africa. Somalia, in fact, sometime next year, God willing, I want to bring a guest on this show so we can talk about Somalia. Somalia may look like, oh, it's so like, oh, the chaos has been there for a very long time. But this guy is just telling you that the chaos and the fire that we are seeing burning in Somalia was done intentionally. Netanyahu told you in 1996 that we're going to get involved in Somalia. It doesn't matter the US government that comes in, everybody bombs Somalia. They've been bombing Somalia maybe even before I was born. Somalia has been under US bombs. Why? Because some people somewhere felt that the government of Somalia was not going to work in their favor. So they thought the best thing to do was to overthrow the government of Somalia. Okay, now that the government has been overthrown for decades now, what good has it done to the people of Somalia? Nothing. Till today, there's no peace in Somalia. In fact, that overthrow of the government in Somalia is what led to this chaos we've been seeing in Somalia. Somalia is like the breeding spot for terrorists in Africa. So the overthrow of the government of Somalia, what good has it done to the people of Somalia? Nothing. The overthrow of Gaddafi in Libya, what good has it done to the people of Libya? Nothing. As we speak today, they are selling Africans, melaninated Africans, black Africans in open slave markets in Libya. How did it benefit the region? It did not. How did it benefit the world? It did not. How did it even benefit the Israel? How? Because at the end of the day, you're just breeding terrorists that decide to cause chaos everywhere. Do you understand me? Now let's look at Sudan, because Sudan was also mentioned. Remember that when in Donald Trump's first term, when they created that Abraham Accord, Sudan was one of the countries that signed up to the Abraham Accord, and people were like, oh, this is historic. It could have been historic because they broke Sudan's back. They said they don't want the government of Sudan. They overthrew the government of Sudan. Yet, as we speak, fire is burning in Sudan. It's not. Remember that Sudan was one country before they now created Sudan and South Sudan. And South Sudan is the one that is in love with the West. And interestingly, it's the part that has the oil. Well, after the overthrow of the government of Sudan, the civil war in Sudan, and the balkanization of Sudan to 2 countries, Sudan and South Sudan, what good has it brought to the region? Nothing. As we speak, Sudan is engaged in a very terrible, terrible civil war between the RSF and the Sudanese army. Even as we speak, the South Sudan that they sold a pipe dream to, telling them that that once you separate, so once you separate, everything is going to be so beautiful and so amazing. They are finding out that it is not going to be so beautiful, so amazing. So, in the same way, people who are rejoicing at the overthrow of Assad should think well, because don't think it so far. Don't think it unlikely that the way Somalia turned out, and Sudan turned out, and Libya turned out, Iraq turned out, Lebanon turned out, don't think that Syria is going to be any different. I don't think it's going to be any different. So somehow at the end of the day, when you follow the news, sometimes you think everything is happening so far away. But the more I look closely at things, the more I see that everything is interconnected. Everything is interconnected. They are complaining about immigration in the West. Oh, we don't want these Africans here. We don't want these um, Arabs here. We don't want this and that, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Yet the government in the West are supporting the overthrow of Assad. What do you think is going to happen? Turkey, Erdogan, that said, oh, no, 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 they should remove, because one of the reasons he was trying to have a meeting with Assad before the overthrow of Assad, one of the reasons he was trying to have a meeting with Assad was so that Assad can take some of the Syrian refugees in his country, because they don't want the refugees. Maybe it's getting difficult for the government to manage them, probably. But how does Erdogan think that the overthrow of Assad is going to help him deal with, is going to elevate the refugee crisis? It's not, it's going to get worse. The same thing with Europe. They are complaining. Muslims everywhere. They were complaining. I saw a report some days ago, or maybe about a week now, that the most popular name for baby boys in England, in the UK in general, is Mohammed. And people were like, oh, the Muslims are coming to overthrow the UK, the Muslims are coming to take over, they want to turn the UK to an Islamic state, blah, blah, blah. All right, why would the Mohammed not be? Why wouldn't they be giving birth to Mohammed more back and forth in the UK when the UK is encouraging the overthrow of governments around the world in Muslim nations? Well, don't you think they rather want to stay at home? These Muslims that have to now run from Syria and Iraq and Lebanon, all these places, Sudan, don't you think that they would rather stay in their house, in their countries? But no, all this regime change, regime change, regime change, it just leads to chaos. It just leads to chaos. A few hours after Assad fell and the rebels, the terrorists, I'm not going to call them rebels because I'm noticing it's an intentional whitewashing of these terrorists in Western media. The terrorists took over Damascus. A few hours later, Netanyahu was at the Golan Heights taking a victory lap. He said they are creating buffer zone. Okay, let's say it's buffer zone. Now he's been moving and expanding the so-called buffer zone. Even now they are few kilometers away from Damascus. Meanwhile, Smodrich, one of his officials, I think I'm not sure if I pronounce his name well, but I think it's Smodrich. But I'll find the exact name and put it on the screen. He said that the greater Israel is going to spread to Damascus. So what is the Israeli military, the IDF, doing crawling close to Damascus? And as we have seen that the terrorist who is now heading the government in Damascus said that when they was asked, are they going to do anything about see how Israel is expanding its territory into Syria? He said, no, 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 that Syria has been facing a lot of war. They're done fighting. So therefore, Israel can keep encroaching and taking territory. And I want to ask Netanyahu, this territory he's taking in Syria, how does he think it's going to, in the long run, is going to benefit Israel? Maybe you have this dream of greater Israel, fine, and then you probably think that the way you've been dealing with them in Gaza and the Palestinians in Gaza is the way you're going to deal with these other ones in these new territories you take. Maybe that's his plan. But how do you think it's going to cause stability in Israel when you're including more Arabs into Israeli territory, more Arabs? But now I want to bring this back to Africa. What I want to say is the same people that have been setting the world on fire, and many times we think that what happens there is not our business in Africa. This just clearly shows that the people who set Iran on fire, the people who set Syria on fire, the people who set Iraq, sorry, I said Iran, Iraq on fire, the people who set Lebanon on fire are the same people who set Sudan on fire, are the same people who set Somalia on fire, are the same people who set Libya on fire, and don't think that any other African country is out of their reach. they have a history of setting completely destroying countries. Libya is not a functioning state. Somalia is not a functioning state. Sudan, as we speak, is engaged in a very bitter civil war, both in the Sudan and in the South Sudan, the new country that they created in the South Sudan is on fire. So this attitude, because sometimes I see it with Africans, we just say, "Oh, it's happening there, so therefore it's not my business." No, anything that is happening anywhere is your business because it's likely pushed by the same group of people. It's very likely pushed by the same group of people. Erdogan went to set Syria on fire. In fact, in as much as we say Israel and United States are part and parcel of it, I believe even the insurgency, I saw that somewhere. I'm going to, yes, I'm going to verify that. I saw that somewhere that the insurgency, the propping up of the terrorists in Syria, has been the most expensive the CIA ever took on. It, in billions of dollars to sponsor terrorism in Syria. So, in as much as we are saying, all right, it's Israel and the United States, this particular thing now that just happened in Syria, the bulk of the responsibility is on Erdogan in Turkey. Is on Erdogan in Turkey. And that's why I'm worried. Someone who thinks it's okay to prop up terrorists in Syria, someone who thinks it's okay to overthrow the government of Syria, someone who thinks it's okay to take out part of Syria, because he too is trying to take out a part of Syrian land. Someone who thinks it's okay to do all those things. Now I'm wondering, what is he doing in Africa? He just oversaw so-called peace between Somalia and Ethiopia, because Somalia and Ethiopia have been having issues for a while, especially because Ethiopia is looking for access to the sea. So Somalia and Ethiopia have been having those issues. He just brokered that peace, so-called peace. I don't trust Erdogan. I don't trust him. I don't trust him. If he can set Syria on fire, he can set any African country on fire to realize whatever dream he has. But as that is going on, even he's been training um, Erdogan, that's Turkey, has been training Somalia's military. What's the gambit here? What is he trying to achieve? But even as that is going on, the I saw this before I started recording this video. I saw a news from Harris, that's an Israeli publication, of how the UAE, is going to how Israel is taking a prominent place. Israel's military is taking a prominent place in Africa, Somalia to be precise. They mentioned Somalialand, not Somalia. In Somalialand, Israel's military is coming in with the help of the UAE so that they can set up an outpost against Yemen, the Houthis in Yemen. How is Africa turning out to be this? How is Africa turning out to be this? And remember, this same UAE that is working with that Harris is saying, and maybe the next episode of the Amanda Show, I'm going to discuss it because I'm not discussing it fully because I've not read the story. I just saw the headlines and I just scanned through the article, but I've not read it fully. That's why I'm not going to discuss it. But bottom line is the UAE is now going to work with Israel for Israel's military to have an outpost in Somaliland against the Houthis in Yemen. Now, I want to remind us that this UAE that is working with Israel in Somaliland to get the Israeli military in Somaliland is the same UAE that is setting Sudan on fire. It's the same UAE. Now tell me that UAE is not working for Israel's interest at the detriment of Africans and the African continent. Because if they, I've always wondered what is the government in UAE? What are they trying to accomplish by setting Sudan on fire? Well, maybe it's the same thing they are trying to accomplish by giving Israel a foothold, Israel's military a foothold in Somaliland. Like I said before, everything is connected. Africa doesn't exist in a vacuum. In fact, Africa is the most strategic location. Africa is one of the most strategic locations on the planet, not just because of our human capital or our minerals and natural resources, but also because of our location. Remember the Suez Canal. Remember, that is a very heavily used shipping lane that moves goods and services, both for whether you want to reach Europe. In fact, from here you can reach the whole world. That's why all of everybody is putting military base. You see Djibouti, military base all over the place. There's a game going on, a geopolitics game. I see that era of Africans being oblivious to geopolitics. You just want to look in your country and say, my country bad, bad, bad. Okay, I get it. But there is a geopolitics game going on. So even if you ignore what is happening around the world, don't think that what is happening around the world does not care about you or your country. Don't think so. Like I said before, they've been bombing Somalia even before I was born. They've been bombing Somalia. Somalia has been under heavy bombs. The same thing Ethiopia is seeing. Okay, look at this Somaliland. You don't even remember that there's a, although it's not internationally recognized, but you don't even remember that there's a place called Somaliland. There is. Israel is trying to put military base there with the help of the UAE, the same UAE that is setting Sudan on fire. So the fall of Assad, I think we've not seen the end of it. People are rejoicing and say, "Oh, Assad is gone. Assad is gone." Yes, but I have a very strong feeling. I don't have evidence for this, but it's just a hunch, it's a feeling that this fall of Assad is going to turn out to be a poisonous gift for the people who thought it was in their interest for Assad to get out of the picture. Those of them that are now whitewashing terrorists in the media, those of them that are celebrating that Assad is gone, those of them that are saying, yes, we have the victory, shows that we are unstoppable. Because I've seen some American commentators say this clearly shows that America is unstoppable and they can do anything they want around the world. And China, Iran, Russia, and every other person are just paper, every other country are just paper tigers. Okay, but it would turn out that the fall of Assad and the conquering of Syria will turn out to be a poisonous gift. They are rejoicing they have victory. This victory, I'm getting a hunch that this victory will turn to dust in their hands. It will be, oh, we should have left Assad. Oh, we should have left Assad. You thought Assad was the bad guy. All right. You have head chopping jihadists now in control in Damascus. Let me know what you think about the fall of Assad in the comment section below. And also this video that I just showed you, where this American official is reiterating, just echoing the what was written in Benjamin Netanyahu's 1996 book about United States going on to overthrow in 5 years, although it didn't happen in 5 years, but they listed 7 countries that should be overthrown by the United States government in 5 years. And those 7 countries, 6 of those 7 countries have been successfully overthrown. The only country left is Iran, which is why every now and then you keep hearing Netanyahu say, Iran, Iran, Iran. I told you they are looking for World War III. They want to go to war with Iran. And worrying thing is that the president who is coming in January in the United States, that is Donald Trump, has already signaled that he will do things at the behest of, of Israel. Even if it's not in the interest of the Israeli people, let's just call it as it is, at the behest of Benjamin Netanyahu. That's what he wants to do. So that's why I'm worried that this World War III they are looking for with Iran, they might get it. Let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. And even our African nations, Libya, Sudan, and Somalia, that were listed in the list of the countries to overthrow, and how these countries, as we speak today, they are just a chaotic mess. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with your friends and your family so that we can reach more people across the continent and across the world. And if you want to support the work that I'm doing on this channel, feel free to use the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description, and I'm also leaving it on the screen. Thank you for your support. I really appreciate it.